my pocket. That's not the way I roll. I need somebody for my soul.
Wow, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wow,
Can you
Charlotte,
hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Charlotte, I've got to say,
Yeah.
I've promised my team that I'm not going to jump up and down on my chair, because normally I'm jumping down on my chair. I get so excited I jump down on my chair. So I promised my team I'm going to do my best in my chair. But as you can see,
stay in there.
from the pausing that I'm very excited, the nerves are going. You know, you never expect these things in life. And all of a sudden, here I am speaking to you. And once again, courtesy of Ettore and Terry Sealer. So thank you so much for being here, Charlotte. You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you to Ettore, who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting in person yet, but I look forward to it.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Once, you know, all of this, you know, COVID stuff, restrictions are gone, we're gonna get the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And so how's your day been? Because you look fantastic. You look great. You got this great look about you.
Thank you. I feel really peaceful. It's been a great day for me. I mean, I have to be honest. I'm on I feel in a sense like I've been let out of prison, because I've been writing an external examination. And not only do I not consider myself to be academic, I definitely didn't know about Harvard referencing. So after 2 years of that and handing in the external examination, I just want to party. I just want to go to the Caribbean and just lime for 3 weeks.
So you just handed it in, have you? You just handed it in?
I've just handed it in now, yeah.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you so much. So every day, I'm not going to lie to you, every day I found an excuse to do some type of partying. It doesn't always involve alcohol or music, but just something that I like, because the whole thing of being in my room and being confined and writing, it's so different to being creative, because you have to concentrate. So although I loved it, I feel like I've been let out of jail.
Oh, well, I get it. But you know, all I'll say to you now, I'm glad you're celebrating and you're enjoying every moment you can have and every moment you can achieve. But I'm trying to say right now, I'm enjoying that right now, and I can see that I'm in your house. I might as well be in your house. You've got these beautiful sofas.
You might as well be in my house.
Yeah,
thank you. I must say, I've got a bit of a thing about Chesterfields. I'm not going to lie to you. If I had, like, if this was, have you? I love them. I keep buying them, and I can't fit any more in my apartment. Even my bed is a Chesterfield. So, you know, I've just got, I don't know what it is. There's something about, whenever I see one, I try to think where I can put it.
I understand. Do you remember Notting Hill Gate? Did you ever frequent Notting Hill Gate and stuff like that?
Obviously, I did, because I used to live there when I first came to London.
Yeah, all the bars have Chesterfields.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I love Chesterfields, because obviously it's a very cozy atmosphere. You know, just kind of really laid back, bit of class. You know, a bit of quality.
I just love it. Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, I have to be honest, you can't see because of the light, but this is slightly battered because my son just thinks it's a trampoline. As a five, nearly six, well, he's 6 now, as a 6-year-old should think that. So he gets to treat it like that when I'm not looking, which happens often, you know, having a mum that's partially sighted. So as soon as my back's turned, I can hear these jumps, and I've given up saying don't. I've given up with that.
There's no point. But you know what? Seriously, it's all really good. We can probably talk about these things later. But without further ado, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You're part of the supergroup Soul to Soul. What was that like?
Yes. It was amazing for me because when I first joined Soul to Soul, it was great from the point of view that they had the studio in Camden. Obviously, it was way, way, way before lockdown days. And so basically, you know, it would be like a real community. And I loved that, you know, being able to walk into a space where they were like, everyone's got their own identity. I understand that now. But at the time, it was like there were 15 versions of Jazzy B, and they were all various, you know, types of. By that, I mean the funky dreads. And it really was like a family atmosphere. Napti used to come and cook for us. And, you know, everyone used to lime and hang out, and we used to write songs. And you would be writing a song, maybe perhaps with 1 or 2 people, but there would be 20 people in the room. And it literally, they manage to live like they do in the Caribbean, you know. So from my perspective, it was great to go from Coventry city centre to that. It was quite epic, really.
Yes, it sounds like a family, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is a family. I mean, Jazzy has always cultivated that, and that's why he's so big on collectives, you know, and it definitely was that when I first got there. You know, everyone had a role and everyone joined in, and it was just great. You know, we had Simon Law, we had Mike McAvoy, just amazing people, you know, Nelly Hooper. So it was just brilliant.
No, I understand, and that's my next question, because obviously what I felt about Soul to Soul, that it was something. It was literally had something for everybody. It was a special band, and you sensed that there's a sound that was so unique. You know, you guys were unique. You know, it was like, you know, in terms of avant-garde. But when we think about bands today and music today, do you ever feel that they could ever be another Soul to Soul? Considering where we are,
I like to be. Yeah, I like to be selfish, and my instinct would say no. The reason for that is because it's like saying, will there ever be another Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye? There'll be strains of, and there'll be similarities too. But I think to have a movement that did the things that Soul to Soul have been capable of, I mean, I just think that that's one in a whole in itself, and some things that are great are not supposed to be repeated. They just happen again in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it'd be lovely to have it. I want it to happen again, because it was the energy, it was something about it. That period was special.
Oh, it was absolutely special, but it's, you know,
it was so tribal, but in a wonderful tribe, a giant tribe. It's a tribe that anyone could be a part of.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, just to make sure that I understood the question properly, is that I think Soul to Soul are capable of reigning in that way again, because they created that. And by that, I mean Jazzy and the original crew, because I've had the pleasure of being invited to the party, so to speak. But I think the way I understood it was, would there be another movement the same as that, or that's done what that's done, what Soul to Soul have done?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
No, I think it's gonna be very hard. I'd love if there could be, but I think it'd be very difficult in the, you know, just the way society's formed nowadays. And I think it'll take a lot of work, you know, to have music have that kind of effect on the community in the way it had. You know, look at Funky Dreads. It's like that was. I mean, I think you had the Pasadenas before, and everyone was doing like all that. Everyone had the quiffs, didn't they? They had all the quiffs, and the quiffs then formed into like dreadlocks. You know, there was like natural progression with the Funky Dreads, and it was everyone was had the Funky Dread, but the sound and the music, it brought everyone together, and the quality, like your voice, for example, the quality, it was a level that very few could match.
I mean, I was really lucky, because I think that when you're young, well, when you're any age, but especially when you're young, and I was young, is that I was able to work with people like Jazzy and like Karen, who I absolutely adore, and I'll always be biased and say that she's my favourite singer from England. You know, but I actually genuinely believe that, and having the experience of meeting her and talking to her about the lyrics of Back to Life and Keep on Moving, and even when she sings, the song that sends me when we're on stage is when she sings I Adore You, because to me, if I had to dedicate a song to anyone, I'd dedicate that to my children. And I don't know what that song's about, but just the lyrics in it, and when she goes into that zone, I can't cope.
Oh,
It's really a special thing.
Of course. But you've got a magic too. And I'll carry on with that, because obviously there've been various incarnations of Soul to Soul. Okay?
Yes.
Did you ever get to perform with Karen Wynn at all?
I did, and I have, and it's been amazing. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, that's the time I'm talking about. So what would happen is there was a time we stood backstage, and well, I stood backstage because I'd go on, do my song, and then they would lead me off, because with the eyesight thing, everyone's like, oh, we're not having a Naomi Campbell on our stage. You better get someone to walk her off, you know. Okay. By that, I mean the time when she fell on the catwalk.
Yeah.
I'm totally capable of that, you know. So I remember going backstage and Karen was singing, and it was one of those particular times where she was in the zone. She was just totally channeling, and it was just the energy. It was just breathtaking. And I normally, when I'm backstage, I drink water and I dance and I mess around and I entertain myself and I listen to the show. But when you've heard the show a million times, sometimes it doesn't have the sheen, you know. But this particular night, it really was special because she absolutely went for it. And it was a night to remember. I mean, it definitely changes your feeling about being alive. It's one of the greater things. It was brilliant.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing it with us. Well, and again, we mentioned about being a parent, you know, so I understand you had kids, you have other children as well.
I do.
Is it quite difficult being a parent and being an artist at the same time?
In the beginning, I didn't know, because I was a bit spoiled in the beginning, because I just kind of believed that, you know, my family should help me, and they kind of got pushed into it when I had my first child, Iman, who's now 23. But I also thought it was quite important, because actually my children were the catalyst for me becoming a woman and becoming a grown-up, because I remember when I had the first one, I cried for hours, and this nurse on the ward was saying, what are you crying for? I said, because that child's going to need me forever and I haven't got a clue. And she just said, join the club, and she walked away.
Wow.
So, you know, because I realized, I just looked at this little person and I thought, I can sing to you, but and I can feed you. I don't know what else is going to happen after that. You know, so so it was great for me, because I learned there was more to life than music, and I didn't know that at that age.
Good. But it's a wonderful experience. If you can make that work, you know. Did you have someone there to help you? Did you have a partner there?
I did. My parents, especially my mum, was amazing at being there to help. And, you know, my stepfather was amazing at helping, and they helped me raise her, basically, because without that, I wouldn't have been able to work, because, as you know, when you have a child, normally you'll only leave them with your parent or your guardian, because, you know, it's safest.
Well, on that feeling of the safety and things like that and everything else, you know, I'm going to lead you into another question. I'm learning more and more about, you know, the darker side of the music industry.
Yeah.
Is that side did you ever experience that? It's not like I've heard and I've experienced things of myself as well, with the industry, with record companies, things like that. But did you ever experience any of that yourself?
I did, and it is something that's real. I mean, you know, first of all, what I would like to say is that I'm not justifying darkness, but in a way I am, because the dark and the light has to go together. And it's your job as a human being to protect yourself and take care and find out what waters you're swimming in. I didn't do that. I arrived very much with a childlike attitude, and my desire was purely to create, like a lot of people.
Like most artists.
Like most artists. So I got kicked in the teeth, slapped in the face, rolled over, whatever, dragged through the dirt.
But they love that. That's what they want. But that's what they want. They want you to go in there naive and not having a clue. You know?
Yeah, no, I was perfect. You know, when my emotional age coming to do music was about 5, because it's like, let's write a song. Oh, yeah, I want to do that. Let's go on tour. Yeah, I'd love to. you know, let's ask you for 92% of something we never wrote. Yeah, cool, no problem. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's about learning. And I think that it's the main thing is not to forget that it is called the music business. So, you know, I don't want to put a negative shadow over it, because I don't see the point in that. But I think that life's a game, and you have to figure out what the rules are. And I didn't know the rules. I know now. But I could have done with learning earlier.
Well, for me, if I'd have stayed with my parents more and listened to my parents more, my mum and dad knew a lot more about the industry, but I was a little bit distant from my family at the time. I was just, you know, rock and roll, trying to be a dude. I didn't want to listen to my parents. And had I been closer to that point in my life, trust me, it would have been a different situation. But I'm glad that you've got through it, you know, you're still here. And also you're considering other things now. You're not just thinking about the music industry, you're thinking now about studying to be a psychotherapist. So why did you choose that profession?
Because I've had a crazy bullshit life. That's why. I think that it's been because to try and understand, what I find is that if I understand more about where people are coming from, then I'm informed and I can make better decisions. You know, so like I said earlier about life being a game, and you know, knowing the rules, in a sense, it's like that with people's minds and people's hearts. And once you understand the map, and obviously the map is ever changing as well, because as time goes on, psychotherapy evolves. It doesn't stand still. It's a lot like music. But, you know, to have knowledge, and also to have knowledge of myself, like what makes me choose these people, what makes me make that record, what makes me walk away from things. You know, because if I learn what my triggers are, then I can arm myself with what I need to go forward. And that was really how the journey started, and it just evolved from there, really.
Well, that's great, but I think there's a lot of artists that could really benefit from psychotherapy. Obviously, you know, I would love to have been able to go to someone and speak to them about my experiences, and I'm sure there's been loads of people that, you know, who struggle in the industry could really benefit from your, you know, from your knowledge. Yeah,
well, I mean, I hope so. I mean, you know, I do work as a counsellor at the moment, even though I'm in training. I have to do it as a trainee, and I have a few musicians who are my clients, and I find that that's the point I can get the most triggered when I hear them say, "Yeah, the producer wants 4 points, and he wants £1,900, and nobody knows who he is." I really have to try hard not to dive in there and do my savior tactics, because that triggers me a lot, because I've heard that story a lot, you know.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I would think, obviously, talking about emotions and feelings and things like that, you know, we talk about Black people, okay, it's put me on our black brothers and sisters being discriminated against, okay.
Yeah.
There's also the thing called colorism. Now, being lighter skinned, mixed race, did you ever get discriminated against by both sides?
Yeah, I did. I think that racism is a funny thing, because it kind of is heavily linked to misunderstanding. And I've also had partners that maybe not mixed race, usually that are white. And I wrote a song about it. My song Skin was about that, because I had a boyfriend at the time who was white, who kept telling me that normally he goes for women darker than me. And I found that a really triggering statement. And so it was a testament to being yourself. And I think what happens is that, you know, the media tends to socialize things that they think they can sell easily, and anything that's deemed different is considered not beautiful. And I think once you understand that, you can step out of the trap, because it is another trap. It's another way of being programmed. And again, it's our responsibility. Programming is going to be there whether you like it or not, but you don't have to tap into it. And that's how I process it. So, for instance, you know, I've got a TV here, but I use my TV to cast, you know, music to, or YouTube or whatever. I really keep a lid on what programs I watch. I'm really conscious of the messages that I'm feeding to my body because I'm a product of my environment.
I understand, but did you ever feel like you could, as a mixed race person, that you were seen not to be good enough by black people, or not to be good enough by our white, but black and black, by either side of the equation?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because I've heard, I definitely felt that with black people. I felt like I didn't quite fit in there or quite have it. Like even now, and it happened to me again on the street today. I noticed, and having locks, like every Rasta that walks past me in the street will always give me that Rasta nod and that respect. And I noticed when my hair was braided, or when I was blow drying the crap out of it, and it was all breaking and weird, it's like no one was interested in me. I was this way or that way. So it is strange not feeling like you fit in. And I have to be honest, I have made the mistake being a parent of mixed race children as well, that are different colours. One of my children is lighter than me, the other two are darker than me. So it's been one of those things where I've not socialized them as well, because I didn't realize it was so important. I just fell through the gap all the time, and it was really weird. Having the locks does help though.
So because having the locks kind of makes people know that it's almost like you're saying that you want to be more black than the whiter side. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. It was more about stepping out of the arena. I mean, obviously, I haven't totally gone natural, because if I'd totally gone natural, I wouldn't dye it blonde. And now it's grey, it goes blonde easily. But that's just because I liked the idea of that colour around my face. But it was more the testament to being black and the acceptance of my hair is what it is. And I don't want to spend millions of pounds trying to look like a Barbie doll. And I think that if that's what people want to do, they should absolutely do it too, because there's process. The process is what helps us to learn. I've done it, I just don't want to do it anymore. So from my point of view, it is liberating. And I do have times where I think, I'd love to put a comb through my hair and have it all nice and silky, but that lasts for a week and I get over it, because it isn't, and it won't be.
Hey, and the reason why I asked you that question, because for me, it's like, I just look at it this way, like we spend a lot of time as black people, if I use that, as black people, just, instead of us trying to work together to build something and being accepting of each other, there's a lot of this time being used to almost discriminate and to say that one part isn't part of the other. I know I felt it. I know when I walked in certain rooms, I was meant to feel like I wasn't part of that group. Even though I was. I walked in with my Nigerian friends and I'm part of that group. But for some reason, other people look at me like, well, he's not really one of us, he's not Nigerian. So there was always these kind of things that kind of stepped in the way. If not for my ability to kind of rub it off, shrug it off and say, you know what, I'm gonna have to prove, I'm a dude, I'll rock this world. But without that attitude, I would have probably just been a little bit, subservient. I'd have been a little bit fearful.
Yeah, but again, that's where I came in. And I mentioned earlier about having a childlike attitude. I had the same attitude towards race because I spent a lot of time with my father, who was a very proud West Indian man, and he was very West Indian in his way, and he was born there and he grew up there and whatever. So I just knew Dad as being creative and free-spirited, and I thought that was normal. But I remember when I was older and I brought home a partner who was Nigerian. Oh my goodness, the telling off that I got. I just couldn't fathom it. I couldn't fathom it. Because everyone just looked at me and they were like,
"Oh, it's that Jamaican." Oh, I understand that. Yeah, there's been a lot
it
of
was
these
like,
kind of
he's not
issues.
Jamaican. He's not from St. Vincent. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's from Lagos. They were like, oh, that's not good. I was like, really? And I couldn't. I have to be honest with you. I couldn't get with it. I just didn't understand it because I thought, I have the tendency, and maybe that's a mixed race thing, I'm not sure, because I haven't had this kind of conversation often, which is interesting. But when I look at a person, because my mum's white, and that's the person I've seen since I was born, and my dad's black, I just think of them as people. So the colour never came first. So depending on whatever partner I had, it was never like, yeah, he's white or he's black or he's from Lagos, how's he going to fit into my world? I just didn't think like that.
Yeah, no, of course. It's beautiful. And I love the way that you think about this stuff. It's fantastic. And I know other people think like that as well. It's just obviously there is always going to be these little groups, and that said, within the black community, that's something that's got to be handled as well. As we talk about racism, but we've also got to deal with the racism within our own communities, the way we treat each other and the way we divide each other instead of working together. And that's something that I'm obviously concerned about.
Love in my pocket, that's not the way I roll. I need somebody for my soul. It's not in my nature to always be on your case. 24 hours, 7 days. I believe we both got the right to roam. Baby, all we really need is some loyalty. I ain't got the time for suspicious mind, 'cause I love you, baby. I can set you free. That way, you don't have to stay. Don't wanna share your name, baby, that's okay. I need you for life, I need you tonight. As long as we're together, baby, that's alright.
As a sight impaired person, okay,
Yeah,
how important is music to you?
really important, because sound is life to me.
Yeah. That's a good question. This is a good question,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes, I like it. And it's funny because I'm digressing slightly, but it is in keeping with what you're asking, is that one thing my children hate about having a partially sighted or blind parent, whichever way you want to look at it, is that when they lie, I can tell by the sound of their voice that they're lying without even looking at them. And they hate that. So my nickname is Daredevil. So yeah, sound is so important though.
Awesome.
Because it's about the tone, you know, and that's one of the things I love about the resonance of Soul to Soul, and so proud to be, you know, allowed to be part of that. And even, you know, the way that Karen sings, it just has that tone. You know, you've even got people like Misha Paris, you know, who've got that tone, and they just hit that note, and you just like, wow, you went there, you know. I don't know, it just really works for me.
No, I can imagine, of course, and I imagine that should in some way enhance your vocal abilities as well, because you'll be able to hear things. Your voice, you feel it. You know, you can. I don't know. I just imagine that you must really feel everything and be able to control all of those things. You know, your vocal cords in such a way. It's definitely a bit of a superpower.
Yeah, it is. I like to call it a superpower.
Yeah,
sorry,
because your voice is insane. And I want to talk about, obviously, I want to talk about I want to get to, there's a question I want to get to first.
Yes.
Then before because I want to talk about some of your new projects, things like that. But there's a question I want to get to first. It's quite a deep question, okay? And I don't know how you're going to take this question.
Okay.
But it's basically regarding, I've been researching you online, and I found out about an incident that happened with one of your ex-husband, I think it was.
Yes, it was.
Now, without, obviously you'll be able to explain it better than me right now, but obviously people get the gist. You know, we just gone through lockdown, and there's a lot of people who are locked away in situations, women in situations whereby they're maybe in very, very difficult relationships, and maybe forms of domestic abuse. What would you say to those women? You know, if you had a chance to say something to those women, you know, what would you say to them in those situations, you know, in terms of coping?
It's a great question. So thank you for that. It is very difficult. I would say that if you can, try to spend time away from the environment where the violence is. And the reason I say that is because obviously, you know, lockdown is lifting a little bit now, and is that normally it's all well and good to talk about domestic abuse and what men do to women, and I'm not justifying that at all, so I don't want 20 feminists at my door, but the reality is that for a woman to take on a man like that, your contract with love has to be flawed in the first place, because it's very rare that a man that displays domestic violence will do it out of the blue all of a sudden. Normally there's some
signs,
energy.
triggers.
Yeah, there's some anger in his energy. He might not hit you, he might not, you know, normally the abuse, and it wasn't in my case, but I'm saying in a lot of cases, it is emotional and mental abuse that the person, the woman, or maybe even the man, because men go through it too, experience before the physical comes, to prepare your mind. So if your mind is a product of the environment that you're in, you don't know any different, which is the reason why a lot of these women don't leave. It's because if you're not well in your mind, you're not well anywhere.
Okay. So what would you do? So you want them to think about, you know, recognizing having these triggers, but they're in the situation, you know, what, you know, do they call somebody? You know, do they call you? You're a counsellor. Where do they go to?
Yeah, there's counsellors to call. There's amazing people. There's obviously, you've got people like Mind. You've got Headstrong for women. You've got Advance, which work with women. Advance worked with me and they're amazing. You've got the Women and Girls Network, who are absolutely amazing. You can self-refer with all of those people that I've mentioned. And I think that the thing to do is, you know, once you feel that that's happening to you, or you're aware of that kind of energy, it usually doesn't change. You see, the problem is the women go back and back and back. And I went back a couple of times, and, you know, you have to realize that that person needs to work through something, and they can't do it while they're still abusing their prey, or whatever. There might be a better word than that, but you know.
Well, you know, I don't, you know, I don't. I'll make it public now. Those guys like that in that situation, you know, the biggest cowards. So to say, you got to just kind of deal with your problems. Don't bring it to the person you love or you care about. Don't use them as a punch bag. You know, women, everyone, we all deserve respect, and please don't take out your anger on anyone. It's not, you know, be the better man.
Exactly.
Or be the better woman.
Yeah, and can I just add, exactly, and can I just add to that, because I'm not siding with men, but what I will say, because this was my experience, I know for some women it's not their experience. Most men, and a lot of, especially men in the Black community, we have had a history of violence, a history of fighting just to stay alive. You know, that's on a collective level. So, you know, this has been passed down through generations, which is probably why we've got so much fire. Okay, so it's one thing to, and I'm not saying that's wrong, to suggest to people not to do that, but it's not as easy as that. When a man doesn't know how to be a man, it's usually because his relationship with his father is flawed, or even his relationship with his mum was heavily traumatic for him. And so, you know, even if there is a man out there and he wants to abuse a woman, or he feels that compulsion, he needs to be able to go and sort some kind of counseling, therapy, whatever it is, whoever he can talk to try and find out what happened when he was a child. Because most people aren't born bad. Occasionally you get one who just comes out, you know, like a bad egg, but that's rare. People suffer from trauma. And I think with men, that's what happens, because men don't get shown how to be men. Like women have to be, you know, I show my daughters, I hope, how to be a woman from the perspective that I know. But I learned that from my mum and my grandmother, you know, and if I didn't have that, my energy would be imbalanced. And I found that was the greatest thing I got from being around my partner, was that when we decided to separate because of what had happened, he went back and he did his thing, and he did his counseling, and he did his work, and found out where the problem was. Because a man can't just stop. I'm not saying it's an addiction, but it's, I don't know how to explain it.
It's behaviors, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's behaviors, you know. So behaviors become repetitive, and then you feel compelled to do it. But there's a reason why. So if a man can go like an alcoholic could to AA and say, look, I feel like hitting a woman, or I've hit a woman, or I'm hitting a woman. How can I sort this out? There should be, and I don't know if there are, because forgive me, I haven't looked into it enough, organizations that deal with that too. Because, you know, men have a lot of pressures. As girls, we're allowed to just scream and cry and get upset because that's what the world expects. When you're a young man, everyone says, don't cry. I say it to my son. If he falls over and he doesn't look badly hurt, I clap my hands and say, let's go. But in my mind, I think to myself, okay, if that was my daughters, I'll be all over them. Oh, what happened? Is everything fine? I wonder if I'm causing trauma by doing that.
I understand. Yeah, because obviously
because he's still a little boy.
And you know as well. So it cut out for a second there. You kind of know as well that obviously the world of boys is going to be tough. We see what goes on the street. We know that boys can be very, you know, cruel to each other. We see in sport, you know, when you look at sport, you know, my kids go and play football and they're constantly saying, be aggressive, be more aggressive. It's like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I'm like, why are you teaching my kid to be aggressive? But that's just part of the sport. So we can see, so absolutely. So it's a bit of it, trying to understand that not everyone's able to switch it off.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I've learned as well, because, you know, I notice with my son all the testosterone that he has, I sometimes find it hard because he needs to jump, he needs to roll, he needs to throw himself around. And I'm not used to that because I've got two daughters who are now women because they're 17 and 23. So I think to myself, okay, I need to try and understand this. So what I try to do, and I'm not saying I'm doing it right, but it's channel because anger, you know, is heavily related to passion if it's channeled right. You know, because you can't just say to someone, well, you can, but you won't get far. Don't be angry, because what you're doing is you're causing more anger because you're adding resistance to the flow.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah. So maybe there's a way that we channel the anger. Like with my son, we've got to get this beanbag thing that he wants to punch now when he gets angry. And at first I was resisting that because I thought, no, I don't want him punching something in the house. But then I'd rather him punch that than a person.
Definitely. Absolutely. Great.
So,
well, you know what?
You know, yeah.
Well, you sound like you got it nailed. And I know the energy of boys. I've got boys, so I know the energy of boys. And I'm like, gosh, was that what I was like when I was a kid? And absolutely, I totally was. And my mum, God bless her, I'm telling you, she had hell to pay with us. But anyway, I'm going to come to the last question. And, you know, I've got to tell you now, Charlotte, it's been the hardest thing sitting here and not jumping forward and rocking around in my chair.
You've done well. You've managed to go from side to side.
It's hard. Yeah, I'm trying to hold it together. Like, you know, I think my wife tells me I've got ADHD. I just can't sit still.
Oh, bless her.
But realistically, it's more about I can sit still. But when I'm really excited, and when I'm happy, you know, it's one of those things. It's a good feeling. It's a good way to be.
That's
you know,
good.
Very comfortable. But I've got to get to your last question now, okay? All right.
Yeah.
And it's basically talking about looking at, you know, you've been with Soul to Soul, but that's not all you've done. You've done a load of stuff. You've done a lot of hit tracks as well. You're a songwriter and everything else. And there's a song of yours I actually found on YouTube because I've been checking you out. As I said, all coming back. Brilliant tune. Yeah. Like, God, you're super talented. Like, can I put part of that tune on this interview?
Absolutely, yeah, because it's a great song. And I wrote that with my friend Joel Kipnis, who runs a company called Pulse Music, and it's, you know, we wrote Skin together. So yeah, it's a great song. I'm done.
The hunger in your eyes, I'm memorized. I've seen at least 1,000 times before. The story of our lives, can we rewrite? And this time maybe get it right.
But can you tell me what other projects have you got, you know, on the go? And what other stuff have you done?
Well, one project that I'm really passionate about is I work with a company called Kids on the Green, which you may or may not have heard of. So this charity was born out of the Grenfell disaster. And it focuses on families basically that suffered from that tragedy, and the expression, being able to express themselves through art, sport and music. And we've just been qualified to be able to issue arts awards to the kids. So I'm working with the children at the moment. We're in the middle of writing a song, and it's going to be quite a special song because the guy who had gone through the Grenfell disaster was supposed to go traveling with his wife. His wife didn't make it out of the tower, but he did. So he went traveling without her, obviously. And he has sent postcards everywhere that he's been. So we've decided to write a song called Postcard to Heaven.
Wow.
And working with the kids, that's the thing I'm most passionate about, really.
Beautiful title.
Yeah.
Well, no, I understand that passion. Seriously, I put a post out today on Facebook, in fact, about my passion for, you know, for just trying to do something positive in the community and everything else. So when I hear about anybody else with a big heart, you know, that makes you know, I get very, you know, it's great, it's beautiful. So please, you know, keep doing that, and I look forward to hearing it. And you know,
thank you.
You know, we're together now. I know you. We know each other. Clusterview. We're doing our stuff together. So just please,
great, and good luck with it. It looks amazing what you've done so far.
Stay in contact with us, and you know, and I'm going to get up on the site. And I just want to thank you, and obviously to any of the viewers. You know, if you want to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you? Other than on Clusterview, have you got a website of your own or anything like that?
I have obviously my Facebook page, Charlotte Kelly, which is mainly I use for entertainment purposes only. And I'm in the process of setting up a Facebook page called Blind Vision, which is about bringing the focus of people with disabilities being able to do things for themselves, independence and confidence. Yeah.
Well, you are a warrior, lady. Seriously, you are amazing, and you know, just an example to us all. So thank you so much for being part of what we're doing. The iconic Charlotte Kelly. A wonderful life. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Take care.
And you. Bye bye.